Hello, my name is Jeremy Bradley. I'm a linguist at the University of Vienna, and I'm a member of the international work group which has created the corpus of literary Mari, which has recently been published with 57 million tokens in excess of. In the first workable version. There's a lot of room for improvement. We know this. You will, in the course of this demonstration, see me struggling with some features that are not yet working as well as they should, but it is already definitely usable. So we have decided to already put it out there for a general public. So our corpus uses the Corp infrastructure hosted by the University of Tromsø. And the target group for this video are people who have never worked with Corp before and want to access interesting linguistic data. And I'm doing this on a computer that does not have a Cyrillic keyboard layout installed, so you can get the full newbie experience, so to say. So if you do not have a Cyrillic keyboard layout installed but want to access all this data, which is in our corpus in the Cyrillic alphabet, you can use the copious transcription toolset. There's a link on our on the website where you found this video that you can use to have your Latin data transcribed into Cyrillic. So here's the first page of the corpus infrastructure. We see Corp. Let's see. Yeah, here we have chosen Metamari. We have there also corpora for various other Uralic minority languages of Russia. And here we can see the subcorpora that we have in our infrastructure. The by far largest of which is the news text section, which is 49 in excess of 49 million tokens. And yeah, here are the other genres. In future, we would like to have here the possibility to have the data separated by year of publication to allow a better diachronic analysis of linguistic features, but we're not there yet at this point in time. And if you have all of these clicked, you're going to be searching through 57 million tokens. If you have search queries that find a lot of results, it might end up taking a lot of time if you search through everything, and you might want to restrict yourself to one of these subcategories, not news, because that's so big, and test out your search patterns till you find one that that works for your task at hand, and then you can search through the whole corpus. Okay, so we have the three basic functions here: simple, extended, and advanced. If this is your first time using Corp, don't worry about advanced for the time being. Maybe you'll get there at some point in the future, but for the first steps, this is not yet necessary. So simple is, as the name suggests, simple. You can just search for individual words in the corpus or individual phrases. Let's say, for example, I'm feeling egocentric, and I want to see how often have I been mentioned in the texts that are in our corpus, or somebody else called Jeremy, for example, though I think that there are not that many Jeremys that spend time talking to Mari journalists. So here I have my name now in its correct Russian rendering. I copy this and I search. I do a simple search. And here I find all the occurrences of my name, at least in the nominative. I would not be finding inflected names of my name. I can also look for entire phrases. For example, there is a well-known Mari poem, considered a national poem, called Otto the Grove. And it starts with the words Iktemek Otto. And so it means one silent grove. And here I can look for this in a simple search, and I can find all the occurrences of it. So what we already see here when we have all our results is you can click on individual words here in our glossing, and you will find some meta information about it on the right-hand side. This is still something old. Let's look at Timuc. Unfortunately, we don't have translations yet here, so if you need translations of the word, you need to access either the Mari English Dictionary or the Mari Russian Dictionary, both of which are both of these language combinations. You can find extensive dictionaries online. Okay, if we look at Timuc, an adjective, quiet, we just find it's an adjective, base form Timuc. Nothing much is happening here morphologically. But let's look at the word memnan, which is we in the genitive, so are, and it says, okay, base form me, which is me, first person singular, but it says that it's a pronoun, personal, first person plural, genitive. So genitive form of the personal pronoun in the first person plural. And if I click on Elste, it tells me it's a noun in the singular, in the initiative, and the base form is El, which means country. What the first line is, there's one quiet grove in our country. And if I wanted to, so here you already see the elements that you see here are elements you can use in the extended search. If you, for example, want to find all inflected forms of one stem, like for example, the word El, country. I'm interested in this word for some reason, but I don't just want to find the nominative form. I also want to find all the inflected forms. So for this, I go to extended, and okay, here the standard option is word is whatever I put in here. So if I say word is L, for example, and click on search, I will find all the cases of L just standing on its own. Not yet very interesting, but well, I could say word begins with L, and then I will find also a thing like Ellen of the country, LM, my country, but I also find element, vlakem, the elements, and this is not what I'm actually looking for. So while in some cases, just looking for elements of words might do the trick for you, and in some cases, in case you know regular expressions can also be used. This is here, you can have word regexp, your input. Regular expressions is a mechanism to have expanded search patterns that have certain flexibilities baked into them. But let's say that we don't want to use regular expressions or something like this. We just want to look for all inflected forms of the stem L. So then I say, rather than saying word begins with L, I say base form is L. Base form being the dictionary form of an entrance, which is included in the analysis here. And now if we search for this, I have 66,152 hits of L in some inflected form. El nam, for example, which is El, country, with possessive suffix, first person plural, plus an accusative ending. So you can see all these in the grammatical analysis section. You can see all these, the relevant tags giving you the grammatical information. So now let's have a look at a more complex question. There is a verb in Mari Jüngertasch, which in its original meaning means to ring, like to ring a bell, but presumably mirroring the Russian extension of zvonit to also mean to call somebody by telephone. Jüngertasch today is also used to call somebody by phone. And now the question is, so Mari has both a dative case and an accusative case, much like, for example, German, much like, for example, Russian. Does the verb Jüngertasch, to phone, does it co-occur with the accusative case as it would in German, where ruf mich an uses the mich accusative form, or does it use the dative form as it does in Russian? Well, only one way to find out. Let's ask our corpus. So let's go here to the transcription, and it is Jüngertasch, so Jün, I'm going to do it now just showing in separate letters how transcription works. We have y, and then a velar nasal, which you can, in the transcription system, just you can write ng, and it interprets it as a ligature. And then sh, you can do like this. You only need a standard Latin keyboard to access all the the Cyrillic letters. Whoops. Yeah, but let's take these spaces out and just look for the whole word. Yingirtash, here we go. So I'm copying Yingirtash now. And I am searching for word is Yingirtash. And I'm finding 150 examples of Yingirtash. But there are two things to immediately notice. One is, oops, I've been searching here. I have had case-sensitive search on all this time. Generally, it will be more useful to have a case incident-sensitive search to also find, for example, if we had Yingirtash at the beginning of a sentence and had the first letter capitalized. So if we do that, 157 hits now, we have a few extra. Okay, but in all of these hits, I just have Yingirtash, the infinitive form, and that is not what I actually wanted. I wanted all inflected forms of this verb. So now let's say word, rather than saying word is Yingirtash, let's go back to saying the base form is Yingirtash. And now I'm going to find all inflected verbs of it, and suddenly I have 1,641 hits of this. Okay, Mari has the basic word order subject, object, verb. So usually an object immediately precedes the verb, but especially like in instructions like call me or so, you might expect that you'd have the verb immediately afterwards. But let's see. In all these cases here, like, do we find any, like I've already restricted myself that it's going to be probably the dative or the accusative that occurs with this form. Let's look at these examples that we have here. So here it is like Andre called. Okay, here I have a subject, but no object. Doesn't help. It doesn't help me at all. But let's have a look. Well, we have a lot of we have some examples we can already see with a post-possession did get to. He called to me, so that seems to work too. Something to keep in mind. And like often, like when you have a specific question that you're looking at, often you will have several cycles of working through the corpus. First, to look at some of the raw data to figure out exactly what the question is that you should be asking, and then you can make finer search patterns based on that. Okay, let's go somewhere to a random page somewhere in the later pages. Here we see like calling to the daughter and the son-in-law in with the dative here, and here we have it with the accusative. So I'm not yet entirely sure. There might be some alternation here. Well, let's ask the corpus to be sure. So rather than like until now, I've just been looking for one word, but now I'm looking for a string of words. I want to look, for example, for Yingirtash, followed by, let's say, a dative form of any dative form. So now I say I want base from Yingirtash, followed by, now I'm saying immediately followed by a word where the grammatical analysis contains the AT dative. And let's see, what do I find? Yingirta malam, somebody calls to me. But well, only six examples where we do have the basic word order in Mars is subject, object, verb. So maybe we should rather look for the object before the verb. So, and fortunately, these little boxes you have here, they're drag and drop. So you can just push it over to the left. And now I have my search pattern flipped. And okay, now I have 107 hits where I have a dative form before the verb to call. And okay, among 57 million tokens, this might not seem like a whole lot, But it could also be that we will also have examples where the dative, the person being called might be early in the sentence. I'm just at this point looking for things that are immediately preceding the verb. And let's, like, for comparison, look at accusative, ACC. And if you don't know the tag that is used for some grammatical category, search for one individual word that you know, especially a common word in the corpus, click on it in the results and see what the tags are, and then you know what to search for. Okay, so now I'm looking for accusative, followed by Yingirtash. Let's have a look. And now we have 36 hits. That's still a lot. But if we now look at the individual examples, we would find things like Judem Jüngertet. Jud is night. And Kitchevalam Jüngertash. Kitcheval is noon. And for these 2 times a day, for night and for noon, accusative is used in temporal expressions at night and at noon. So this is not actually the person being called. This is a different function. And here you're seeing an important lesson already. The corpus is not going to do your whole work for you. You have to sanitize your data output to really find what you are looking for. And if you don't want to do this in the corpus structure, but rather want to export your data to some other infrastructure to do this work, scroll down to the bottom. And here you have the options to download your data in different formats, like a comma separated value. This would be then tabular data that you can use in a wide array of programs. For example, Microsoft Excel, if you want. Yeah. Here we then also, we have other examples in here, like where we have Onge is a bell being rang. So this is not the later meaning that developed with calling somebody by phone. This is really literally ringing a bell where you have an accusative, but this says nothing about what I was originally interested in, the calling of a person, if this is with a dative or an accusative. So what we see here is that there is some variance here, but primarily it seems to be once you sort through the rubbish in your data, you find what you are looking for. So you have to be careful. As I said, the analysis in this corpus infrastructure are not yet perfect. Like here we have Acham Yingirtish. Acha is father, and it says that this is the accusative form of father and then called, but it's not. It's a possessive suffix, first person singular, my father called. It's actually the subject. So here the corpus is simply not, the data in the corpus is not perfect. We are working on making it better. But keep this in mind when picking your search patterns. Be flexible for some mistakes that there might be in the corpus. Okay, let's have another look at another example. So there are a number of particles in Mari. For example, aista, which is used in combination with, this one especially, forms of the indicative first person plural, and it has sort of a function of let's. It's used to to turn a statement into a suggestion. Hey, let's go, or what? No, not let's go is aista kaina. Okay, so we're not interested in this word aista. And now I can just look for the word because I don't expect it to show much like morphology. So I say word is aista, but I still make sure that I'm looking case insensitive because it's aista. It's especially common at the beginning of words, so we want to be especially sure that we have an uppercase a here. So yeah, here we see 3,191 hits for it, and we find things like, it's got to be somewhere, aista ishtana, let's do it. Somewhere there's got to be aista kaina. Here's aista kaina, let's go. But now let's say I am interested, for example, I am interested if aista is also used in combination with negated verbs, like let's not go, let's not do it, or whatnot. Let's say that I'm not sure about this and I want to make sure based on the corpus. So here I would now okay, I know that mar uses a negation verb, so we don't go, for example, is ogenakai or onakai. They're two alternating forms of the negation verb that we have. We'll get back to that question, to that in a moment. That's another question we can look at. So now let's say we're looking for aista followed by word is. Okay, I need to use my transcription software here again. Aista, I can say word is ogena or, and if I click by clicking on the or button, I can give different alternatives that are all accepted by the search pattern. I can say or word is ona. Here I can set it on case insensitive here, but it's less critical here because if a text is following orthographic rules, we would not expect the second word of a sentence to be capitalized if it is a form of the negation verb. So now we're looking for aista followed by ogena or ona, and we find 13 hits and a corpus of 57 million tokens. That's not actually that much, but we were now only looking for aista immediately followed by ogena or ona. And since Mari has the basic order subject, object, verb, we would not necessarily expect this if we also have an object of some sort. Because like if I was like thinking, how would I say, let's read a book, would be aista knigam ludena, let's book read. And in the search pattern, as I have said it here, I have not allowed for an object to be in between the aista and my negation verb. So if I have something transitive there, it fell in the through the cracks. Or if I had any other adverbials or whatever in between these elements. But I'm not limited to 2 search elements. I can also get more. So let's click on the plus button again. And let's move things around because I want to have aista. And then I want to allow for the possibility of there to be some element, be it an object or whatever, and then my negation verb. So I've moved it with drag and drop over to the left. And now I have aista followed by any word followed by my negation verb first person singular. This is not yet the correct search pattern, but we're getting closer to it. So I'm going to click search. Now I have 20 results where the first is aista shgat una ishte, let's not do it ourselves. So aista ni una mat ogena mondo, let's never forget it or so. So yeah, we have examples where something slipped in between the aista and the negation verb. But these 20 results that I have now, they no longer include the 13 I had before where it was aista immediately followed by my negation verb. So for this, I can click on this little icon here. It's not currently being displayed, but if we know where it is, it doesn't matter. If I click on this symbol, I can say, for example, repeat. Repeat means that the thing that I enter in this pattern, I'm looking for not just one occurrence, but a defined set of occurrences. So I say repeat. And I can say this word is any word. Any word, I want to have a minimum of 0 times and a maximum of 1, let's say. And if I do this, now I should have 33 hits. Yes, and I do, because now I have the combination of the 2 things I had before. Aista immediately followed by ogena, ona, and aista, and then any word, and then ogena and ona. And I can set this, I can set the upper limit up a bit, that I can say like 7 words can occur here to allow for way more stuff to happen, to occur between aista and ogena and ona. And here we see now suddenly it is looking less marginal than the original 13 seemed to indicate. It's still not exceedingly common, but it happens. Okay. Let's focus now on this ogena and ona, this alternation that we have here. Let's forget about aista, and that we can do here. The icon is not showing now, but this up here, it's like in Microsoft Windows, a little X that you have in the top right corner to close a window. If I click up here, this is going to be discarded. And if I do it again, this is also discarded. I can always get myself new fields by clicking on the plus. So now I just have ogna and ona, case insensitive again. And now I'm going to look for all occurrences of these. Now I'm interested at the, okay, what is the distribution of these two forms to one another? Prescriptive sources will tell you that ogna, that the long form is more typical for written language, and the short form, ona, is more typical of spoken language. Let's see what the statistics actually tell us about this. And the statistics we get by clicking on the statistics button right here. And the statistic button here then shows me with the sum of all the occurrences that I have of in my search set. And these are relative frequencies. So to allow comparability between sets that are of different sizes. So we see that, okay, way more commonly than not, we just have ogna and ona lowercase. The uppercase forms exist too. All caps forms exist too. And if you were super serious about your research here, you could export these data, and down here you can do relative frequencies. You can also do absolute frequencies as either comma separated values, tab separated values, and then you could import them into, let's say, R or X or whatever other tools you use. And then it would make sense to combine the numbers for ogna with an uppercase O and all caps ogna, just so it's all together. But for simplicity's sake, let's just look at these two here, ogna and ona. And if we're being, for simplicity's sake, if we're only looking at these, we can just we can do a case-sensitive search. So we only have these two. Okay, so we see that in total, the long form is actually way more common in our corpus than the short form is. 139.6 compared to 79. But if we now look at the individual genres, we see that in nonfiction texts, ogna is overwhelmingly more common than the short form ona. But if we look at fiction texts, and fiction texts where we would expect rendering of spoken language data, of course, through the lens of the author's narrative style, but still, here suddenly we are much closer to one another. Ona it's still less common than ogna, but the difference is much smaller between the two. So the data that we see here would be evidence for the statement that ona is more typical of the spoken language and thus more found in texts that represent represent a genre which includes spoken language data. And here it would be absolutely amazing if we could have our data selected by year or sorted at least by year or by decade, possibly, to allow if we to look at the development of the distribution of alternating patterns over the more than 100 years from which the texts in our corpus are included. But unfortunately, we're not there yet. Okay, so I wanted to give you another example showing how we can have some, how we can get some statistics from this corpus. And that is let's go to participles. The forms in Mari which we call participles are polyfunctional and also serve as verbal nouns that can occur with postpositions. Like if we have a postposition near again, about, we can say, let's talk about our friend with a nominal object of the postposition. But we could also say, like, let's talk about galvanizing a piece of metal, and that would be galvanisere vattlet near again with the participle form of this verb. Okay, so by finding individual participles in the corpus, you can figure out what the tags are for participles. And specifically, we use the tag PRC for participles in this corpus. So let's say we're looking for grammatical analysis, PRC. This is going to be too much because now I'm looking for all participles in the whole corpus, and that is over 363,000. But what I actually want is participle. Grammatical analysis contains participle followed by, and now I can say part of speech is, and let's see, here we have Tolmisch nergen, this nergen that I mentioned. Here it is. Also Dutch, this is also postposition. I'm now, let's say I'm not sure what tag we use in the corpus for postposition, so let's click on nergen to see. Part of speech tag we use is ADP add position. Because not all some of the languages that are included in this infrastructure might also use prepositions. Mari does not, but the infrastructure gives a possibility for them. So we just have add positions to cover them both. Okay, so part of speech is ADP for add position. So I'm looking for a participle followed by ADP. And now I have 75,000 examples where I have a participle followed by a postposition. And now I'm, for example, curious what postpositions most commonly occur in a pairing with a participle. And for that, I go to statistics. And here I get my overview of the okay, so total rows there are 12,000 rows in total, but these are just the most common. They're sorted by frequency. And the most frequent ones are ulmo godem, while being, and lime godem, while being. They're two different verbs of to be in Mari. I'm not going to get into this now. Then comes polshemish dene, with the help of somebody. Ulmish godem, while it's like it's the same like ulmo godem, but with a possessive suffix. So, and to get truly, well, what we immediately see here, if we're looking at this, we see these things here sticking out like a sore thumb, is that we have here in law texts, ulmish nergen. That this is not very common in total, not very common in nonfiction texts, exceedingly common in law texts. So about the being of X, Y, Z, this seems to be a very frequent collocation in the specific genre of legal texts. Okay, so the data you get here, this is only going to be the raw data for your research to work this into something that you can publish. You're probably going to have to export this and work on the data some more outside of this infrastructure, but you get the raw data here. Okay, these were just a few very simplistic examples of things you can do with the corpus. I dearly hope that it is enough to give you, that it was enough to illustrate the basic functionalities of this infrastructure and to get you far enough along so that you can yourself work with this infrastructure and learn all its vast functionalities on your own while using it. Yeah, I might make a more extensive video of this sort at some point in the future. I'm myself only learning to use this infrastructure, and I might have some more cool illustrations of what this thing can do in the future. But see you when the time comes.